Thursday, May 13th, 2021. This is a special meeting agenda for our human resources to consider personnel changes. The time is 11:02 a.m. Attending Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Excuse me, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, we're removing item number 5.
Item number 5 for the grade adjustment for an attorney position, prosecutor, is removed. Thank you, Kim. Okay, then. So we'll move on to our first action item, request for 4 additional Title Clerk 2 positions from the assessor, and I presume this has to do with DMV. Bela Kovacs, go right ahead, Bela.
Commissioners, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Filios, you are correct. It has to do with our vehicle licensing division. First, I'd like to, if I may, recap a little bit of history to put this in perspective. At the April 20th business meeting, one of the commissioners, I was there for other matters, but one of the questions that came up, I believe by Commissioner Brooks, was asking about the vehicle licensing and specifically phone calls in light of the influx of new residents to the area and increased transactions. There have been a number of complaints. At the close of that meeting, Commissioner Brooks commented that perhaps what he might do is not answer the phones. I'm not so sure that's something that we can do. Answering telephones has come to be almost an expectation by the public. There are also residents that possibly cannot get out of their homes, and we need to be available for the public. So some history about the vehicle licensing division. The way it's set up is not staffed to conduct business by phones necessarily. We have a total of 12 FTEs in Coeur d'Alene. That has recently changed, now 13. We have a total of 9 FTEs in Post Falls. The employees that have to do the work, they're directed to specific work areas. So for example, in Coeur d'Alene, we have 1 manager, 1 assistant manager, 1 bookkeeper, 1 dealer desk, 1 person in the back room that processes mail, 1 person on the phones. That leaves 5 FTEs to service the windows. We have 8 windows. So if you're like me and you go into a grocery store and you see 17 or 20 cash registers, but only 2 or 3 are open, you begin to wonder why they're not calling more people up to service you. With the workload, the other people that are not at the front windows, they're dedicated to other work tasks and handling those work tasks. And I'll speak a little bit more to the phone situation in a minute. In Post Falls, it's very similar. We have 1 in management, 1 bookkeeper, 1 dealer desk, and 1 on the phones, leaving 4 to service the windows. But we have those terminals there, and if we can get more employees to man the windows, then we can service more customers. We have made some changes. There's been, first of all, to note, there's been significant turnover in the departments prior to my arrival. When I came on board, that's pretty much a lot of what I've done is I participated in interviews and hiring personnel. I feel like we're pretty good now in terms of getting a handle on the turnover and getting the positions filled. Did a little investigating into the phone systems. I've learned that only recently learned that some time ago, and it's believed that this occurred in 2016, a decision was made to reduce the number of inbound phone lines into the Coeur d'Alene office from 4 lines down to 2. Don't know why that happened. It was long before my time, but that's something we recently discovered, and that can create a bottleneck in terms of the phone calls, not to mention not having staff to answer the phones. So approximately 2 weeks ago, we made a change. We, again, increased the number of inbound lines from 2 back to 4. We're only beginning to see the positive impacts of that. Voicemail, I also learned that for whatever reason, historically, staff did not have, or the vehicle licensing department did not have the capability of receiving voicemails. So I've made a change to that. That occurred, I believe, approximately late March, early April. So now the public can leave voicemails. The problem is, how do you expect people to leave voicemail messages if you're not responding to it? You got to man it. Creates a body of work. You have to man hours for that.
Okay.
The other thing is we just recently created an auto attendant. That just became effective Monday of this week, whereby people can maneuver and browse and ask questions and get frequently asked questions answered on the phone system without even talking to a person. We're going to begin to see the fruits of that effort, but that just only got implemented this week. We've also moved into we're moving towards an MOA with the Idaho State Transportation Department to get the dealer title work done, processed by ITD. We're going to be entering into an arrangement. I will be bringing that before the board to sign off and approve. But that enabled us to move 2 employees in Coeur d'Alene. We only began doing that about 2 weeks ago, and we started doing that even though we don't have the agreement in place. And we've got now 2 more employees manning the windows. So the request we have in front of you, Commissioners, is basically to address those needs. We are asking, I think the request in front of you is for 4 FTEs. I'd like to, at this time, reduce that down to 2 FTEs, and then come back with 2 more in our budget for next year. So the request, I'm asking that we adjust, we adjust that's in front of you right now, down from 4 to 2, with the focus of putting those 2, I believe, in Post Falls. Right, yes. So that is our request before the board, and we appreciate your help if you can support us in that.
Okay, so the numbers that we have before us that's showing a 6-month at almost $90,000, is that for 2 or is that for the 4? That's for the 4, so essentially we have that?
We have that.
Okay. Questions for Bela?
Just a couple. How many windows do you have manned in Post Falls, and how many do you have open?
I believe there's 8 windows also, 7 to 8 windows. Yeah, 8. And 4
Okay.
are manned right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
And how many are manned in Coeur d'Alene? You have go ahead.
We have 8 windows, and up until recently, it was 4 to 5, and now we're at 7 manned right now. Is that correct? With the changes that we've
Okay.
made.
Okay, fair enough.
And then, do you project this, you project needing these 4 bodies in perpetuity, or potentially the backlog will be handled?
It's hard to say. The MOA, the memorandum of agreement that we're working on with the ITD, is intended to be temporary. Of course, you know, there's the Senate Bill 1102, which has been introduced. That won't be, I understand it's going to be effective July 1st, but ITD won't be able to fully implement their side of it until approximately December. Then there's speculation in terms of how many will opt in and how many will not opt in. It's estimated that the opt-in will be rather high. However, it is not 100% of the title work business that we do. We had Dina Darrow run some numbers for us. That number came in rather high, but when Anna looked at those numbers, she determined that it's not 100% of in-state dealer titles. The projections that she gave were significantly lower than that, up to in the neighborhood of $100,000 to $125,000, if I recall that correctly.
Okay.
So it's hard to say how it's going to end up with the influx of people coming in, with the legislative changes and all that's going on. There's a lot that's changing. That's why we're being a little bit conservative. We're coming back, and we're cutting it back from 4 to 2, and then we're gonna move forward with 2 in our budget. And because we know that there is steady growth, and we want to be able to support the operations.
Bill, did you have a question?
Comments. Number 1, if you're gonna quote me, quote the whole thing.
Oh,
You took it out of context completely.
Okay.
What I said was, when you have a phone line there that people can call into, they expect a response or something. And if you're not gonna be able to respond or refuse to respond, don't have a phone line. That's what I said.
yeah,
But
okay.
it sounded much different than the way you put it. Another thing is, we talk, and I think HR will back me up here, these are not man hours. These are staff hours. We don't talk about boy and girl hours. Okay? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I hear you.
Oh, do you understand?
I answered you.
Pardon?
I answered you.
He
I
answered
hear you.
Well, hearing isn't good enough, I don't think, because when you get an HR complaint that says you're being sexist by talking about man hours, I hear you is not going to be an adequate response.
Yeah, but I think we
Commissioner
routinely,
Brooks.
I think we routinely refer to it as man-hours.
Well,
We can
I
change.
think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and it says here,
Knowledge.
says here in your memo, the GEM system is now costing more time? I thought that was supposed to cut down on the time,
I agree.
but now it's more time. And I have no problem approving what you've asked for, but it needs to tighten up and get straight quick because people are, excuse the language, pissed off, and I don't blame them.
So I'm coming to you before the board to ask for some additional support.
I'm good with that.
Okay. So you're suggesting we change the term from man-hours to staff hours?
I think that would be appropriate,
Oh, that's fair.
in general.
But I think what Bayla's referring to is how we've routinely referred to it as, and I think we've never really paused long enough to consider that it might be considered sexist.
I paused.
Fair enough, okay. Staff hours. Anyway, anything else?
I would like to share one more thing, if I may,
Yeah, please do.
Commissioners. One of our counties of Idaho, specifically Ada, conducted a survey about the GEM system just recently, just this week. Out of all the respondents, and I don't have the exact total of who responded of all the counties, 93% of the response is that the GEM system has resulted in significant delays. As a reminder, the GEM system is not a system created by Kootenai County. It's a system created by the state of Idaho. I can't speak to why or how the system is or isn't efficient as it should be. It is a system that we have to deal with. We are the local agents of the Idaho State Transportation Department, and we have to deal with their policies and their systems.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so we need to move on. Anything further for Bayla?
No.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the request for 2 additional Title Clerk 2 positions for the Assessor's Office.
I agree. I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. I've lost, what's our second item?
New position, Public Defender.
Okay, Public Defender, and new positions, go right ahead.
Thank you. I have 2 things on my memo. The first thing is asking the board to authorize my part-time investigator to be a full-time investigator. Right now, I have an investigator that's paid half-time out of the workload grant from the Public Defense Commission. I have asked this board in my budget to make this a full-time position. We definitely have the need for it, and this person, I think, would like to have full-time work, and so would take that. I could fill it immediately. I'm asking the board to forecast what they might do with my budget, but do it early. As you know, we have trials that have been ongoing again, and the demand on the investigators is huge. They're actually donating a lot of time, and I'd like to have this person full-time, and I'd like to do that immediately. I have money left in my A budget. As you know, I continually try to hire people for positions, and I am having a lot of difficulty. That's going to create money left at the end of the year, even considering other things that, you know, have been discussed. The amount for this person, I think Dina put some calculations together. It's not a huge amount, and that wouldn't disturb anything or make me over budget in A budget in any way. The second ask is, we did this last summer. I have a 30-hour legal intern position that's paid out of the general fund. Sometimes I can fill that position and sometimes I can't, but I almost always have money left in that particular line item. Last summer, we had a temporary employee, not to exceed 10 weeks, a law student that was a paid position. I'm asking for authorization to do that again this summer, just for a temporary employee. And there's money left in that particular line item to fund that as well.
Okay, so Ann, are these grant funded?
No, the investigator that I'm asking the county for money for is county money. That would come out of the general fund.
Okay.
The half-time that exists right now is workload fund. So what I would want the county to do is pay another 50% to make that employee full-time, and then pay the loaded costs so that employee could have the benefits.
Okay, and is that what's calculated in Dina's projections? Okay,
So in your budget request right now, it looks like it's just the $10,000 for next year to make this person full-time? Is that, Dina's gonna, sorry.
Good, thank you.
Dina, you might as well stay up here. It'd be a lot easier for you.
All right. Okay, so I'm looking at the transition from the investigator from part-time to full-time. So right now, he's paid 77% by the workload grant. That percentage would stay. And then the increment would be, for the increase, is annually $45,346. 77% of that is $34,916, and the other part is $10,430. So that would be the tax levy portion of making that position full-time. And that's identical to what we have in the budget request.
Okay, so essentially right now, we would be committing to funding that at $10,000 for your budget next year. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Are we reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm asking you to forecast ahead that that particular request would be given and to do it early based on the need that I have.
Okay. Fair enough. Dina, as I look at this, I don't want to drag it out, but when I look at the annual, almost at the end of the column on the far right,
Yep.
the 10,430, what does that represent? Because it looks to me like it's almost indicated under the tax column.
Okay, so the increase,
Go ahead.
okay, so right now, he's being paid $26,405.
Yeah?
If we increase him to full-time, that's $71,751, that's fully loaded. So the difference, or the incremental increase, is that $45,346, and then I have it split between funded by the grant and funded by
Oh, okay,
tax
fair enough,
levy.
fair enough. Okay.
make
it's-
sense?
Yeah, it's collinear. Okay, I'm fine. Okay. Ready? Any other thoughts, questions for Ann?
Nope.
You okay? Motion?
Yeah, I'm good.
Go right ahead.
I move that we approve the half-time investigator to go full-time as presented, and that the temporary position for the legal intern at $17 an hour for no more than 30 hours during the week, not to exceed 10 weeks.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion's carried. Thank you, Ann. You bet. Okay. Moving on to our third item, and this is solid waste. Request for new solid waste technical position. J-
Yes, okay.
JP, go right ahead, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. John Phillips for the record. So this request came about because we've had some really increased traffic at the Ramsey Transfer Station. If you take a look at the colored diagram I supplied just before this meeting, it indicates traffic flow.
Here.
If you look just to the, sorry. If you look just to the east or your right, as you look at the diagram of the back doors of the Ramsey Transfer Station, that's the commercial entrance. And you can
Yep.
see how the arrows flow in smoothly and then they change directions where commercial trucks reverse. And there's 2 lanes to back in and dump in that area. And what's happened is our commercial traffic has increased significantly due to the growth, as well as our regular traffic of, you know, Joe Blow homeowner and also landscaping companies, dump trailers, things like that, that come in this back door. And people have grown impatient. So before, the loader operator was able to run in this area and kind of direct traffic from the loader and halt traffic and things. But now people are just sneaking in behind the loader when the loader can't see. We have backup cameras. We have devices that pulse out a radar frequency so that the operator is alerted if somebody pulls behind them with a series of tones. But nevertheless, people are still pulling in, and we've had a couple of accidents in which there was minor equipment damage, but nobody's been hurt.
My wife had an accident there on the weekend.
Oh, did she?
Somebody with a trailer, a young kid, pulled in front of her and clipped the front end of the car.
Oh,
But
geez.
it's okay. It was fine.
Yeah, and
But-
so this is what we're asking for, is for an individual to man those back doors at least 5 days a week. That's when the garbage trucks are running, or I shouldn't say man, you're right, to personnel to
Well, we can't say woman,
attend.
so we'll say staff.
There you go. And They would attend that area and flag traffic and hold traffic while the loader pushes, and then hopefully streamline operations and be able to get people in there safely.
Keep people safe.
That's what this request is all about. If you have any financial questions, Dina has volunteered to answer those for you.
How's the budget? Which is probably not a good question for you because your budget's usually okay.
The solid waste department has the money to cover
You have
this
the money,
position.
okay. Dina, anything to add?
No, they have the money for this.
Probably cheaper to staff the position than pay the claims.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Exactly.
How many open positions do you have, just roughly?
It depends how you look at that. So we have some shuffling going on. I believe there's 2 or 3 at the moment. but
Okay,
There's
fair.
going to be some more movement in the department.
Okay, fair enough. Questions, thoughts?
No, I'm fine.
Motion.
I move that we approve the request for the new solid waste technician position.
Second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Continuing on with solid waste, item number 4, request for mid-year increase for business and finance manager for solid waste. And we have a potential for an executive session here, but go right ahead, JP.
Okay, thank you. Again, John Phillips for the record. So this wage increase, I realize, is outside of the budget cycle. However, I have some things to point out. The solid waste department has been reviewing and reworking some job descriptions as necessary and recommended by the HR department. What we discovered is that our principal planner had really taken up a bunch of extra responsibilities in the last year that she is not being paid for. And specifically, these include the business and finance. So this position would become the business and finance manager, and I'll try to refer to it as that from here forth. The business and finance manager is now tasked with nearly all of the day-to-day supervisory duties within our administration office. This triggered a change in our operational structure and is reflected on our modified hierarchy chart within the department. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at this or see it. I
Go
can
ahead.
show that to you. So, this was a direct result of we had reclassified our administrative supervisor in June of 2020 to become actually just the accounts receivable specialist, which they have a lot of work to do. But this removed all supervisory duties from that administrative supervisor position, which changed. And with that, the new business and finance manager has sucked up those duties, has agreed to perform those. Also, our safety and recycling coordinator was classified to the safety and environmental specialist. This employee was also put under immediate supervision of the principal planner and was not before. The principal planner also took over payroll processing, recruitment duties, supervision of additional administrative staff whenever needed to help out with various seasonal tasks when they're busier with the window sticker program, etc. These changes were not deemed significant enough while working with HR to change the pay grade, but the solid waste department did add quite a bit of responsibility to the position without offering any additional compensation. So the employee has taken on those duties with no additional pay. The title of this position will change from principal planner to business and finance manager. And because this current employee in this position is currently performing all of these new duties already, the solid waste department would request that the current employee's pay be increased as of May 9th, 2021 by 5%. This would amount to moving the employee's wage from $32.75 per hour, or 98% of market, to $34.3875 per hour, or 103% of market. The current employee in this position has already served as the principal planner for nearly 10 years, only a couple months short of this. So I'm not asking for something that's way outside of what would be expected to be paid at this point in her career.
A question, as a result of the change or changes that have already occurred, how many more people is the individual supervising? Just roughly.
The entire office, so there's 3.
Oh, okay.
And then plus any additional help that's brought in, so it could be 3 to 5.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
before, she did not supervise any of those people.
Okay, fair enough. Keep going.
Dina has indicated that she's willing to explain any potential future budget impacts related to this change.
Did you want to add anything, Dina?
Well, it looks like the annual effect is about $4,000.
Okay.
And keep in mind, too, that this individual also does all the budgeting and long-term planning and was part of our budget group for process improvements. So she has a lot on her plate.
She turns out some really good statistics and numbers, and I would not want to see her go anyplace. Plus, with the added, it sounds to me like the responsibility has kind of crept up a little bit, instead of going boom, but she just takes it on.
She has been taking it on, yes.
And so budgetarily, you're okay with both positions? Or the promotion and the new position? Any questions or thoughts for JP?
No, I just rather it happen in budget season, and at the beginning of the budget year.
I think, the end result of these mid-year increases is that it's just going to be that much less that's going to be available for people come fiscal year '22. And I think we need to bear that in mind. And, I think we all appreciate the fact that, well, I guess we are arguably the fastest growing county in the U.S. Most of you perhaps have seen the Wall Street Journal article, another article just yesterday, I believe it was, in U.S. News and World Report. And we're feeling the effects, we're hearing the complaints, and so we have to make potentially the adjustments that we're capable of making. But anyway, any other thoughts?
Well, just that this is not actually going to affect our bottom line.
Right, precisely. They're an enterprise unit.
Yeah.
Okay, motion.
Want to take this one?
Sure. I move that we approve the request for the mid-year increase to business and finance manager in solid waste.
There's another position as well, right?
We already did that one.
Oh, we already did, okay. You have a motion?
Yeah, he just made the motion.
You're going to second?
No.
Oh, I'll second.
Bill, sorry, Bill Brooks,
What?
to vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Nay, only based on the outside of cycle.
Respect that.
Chairman Philios,
Aye, and the motion is carried. And I do have to agree with Commissioner Duncan. We're getting close to having to put the cap on this because it's just going to create a problem for everyone downstream. But again, they're an enterprise unit, so anyway. Okay, item number 6, item number 5 has been stricken. KCSO, holiday banking and payout. Under Sheriff Matos, welcome, Dan.
To get started, I'm pretty sure that items 6 and 7 are going to be related. And just to give a little history, I know the idea of banking holiday time has come before the board previously, and the board has indicated that they didn't want to go down that road. And with that in mind, I talked with HR, with Sylvia, and with Darren, and we, I think, agreed that another route to take would be what is going to be proposed in item number 7. But since that time, I got to give kudos to one of our deputies. I was at briefing yesterday morning. This came up fairly recently. And Deputy Franson said, well, what if we were able to take 80 hours, or the 80 hours that were allotted for the holiday time? We get 10 holidays at 8 hours apiece. What if we were to put that just in the bank at the beginning of the year, and then let the deputies draw from that time as the year goes on? And what would end up happening is that they would either be able to take all the time off or ultimately be paid for some of it at some point downstream. Now, I realize that the devil's in the details, so I'm just kind of pitching the idea right now. But as we move forward into the future, there's no doubt that we're going to have to start thinking out of the box to both recruit and retain our employees. This is a hot topic at the sheriff's office with our deputies, and we're one of very few entities within the county that have to deal with the holiday time issue. Obviously, cops work on holidays. They work on weekends, and they work at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we're a little bit unique with respect to or in comparison to the rest of the county on that note. And that's why I come back to the board and ask for some consideration on this. Dina has weighed in to some degree, but again, without getting into every nook and cranny of this proposal, again, the way we would envision that it would work is that at the beginning of each calendar year, 80 hours would be put into a bank. We would, our personnel people would keep track of the time, and that at some point, as the year wore on, the deputies would be able to take the time or get paid for it. And another important part about this too is the fact that we're already paying them for it. We're putting it in their paycheck now. And so I see it as budget neutral and probably would end up possibly saving the county money, because that time that they would be getting paid for would actually be taken off in many cases. So I realize it's a departure from the current policy, and so, you know, open for discussion, if you would consider it. Darren Murphy, I haven't really had a chance to talk to Darren about it yet, but.
No, I have seen it. I have seen it.
You'll have to come up to a microphone,
Can you get to a
sorry.
mic? Yeah.
I have seen it, haven't been asked to provide a legal review. It does create some challenges, and I'm going to provide the same advice I've always provided. The county is treated as a whole as an employer, not as individual electeds. And so we try to keep electeds who are similarly situated, treat them the same. And I see no discernible difference between the sheriff's office and our other JP's office, juvenile detention. I see no legal discernible difference. So whatever the board wants to do, it should be the same across the board.
Does function make a difference? I mean, as Undersheriff said, they have to work on holidays,
Right. So does JDC.
always,
Yep.
okay? I mean.
So does JP.
Do we take, well, he doesn't, they have holidays when they close the dump, right?
They have certain holidays. I have talked to JP. I won't speak for him, but they do have certain holidays that they do have to work.
Okay, I believe that, but I'm just saying, and I'm interested in the nooks and crannies that Dan talked about, but I don't think we're prepared to sit here today and delve into all that.
So the best process, if the board's inclined to look at any policy change, including this one, is to go through HR, discuss with the affected departments, then have a legal review, and then come back to the board.
That seems to make sense. Dan, go right ahead.
I would just say that, again, what's at issue here is morale, is retention. It's not costing the county anything. And you know, if I got any part of that wrong, I'm sure Dina will correct me. But, you know, to the nooks and crannies, just in a nutshell, without spending too much time on it, again, 80 hours gets put in the bank. They use it in the year, in a calendar year. Another big, or something that was been popular is the so-called holiday buyback towards the end of the year. And the way I see this, if this was to come to fruition, that would have to be done in conjunction with how much money there is to pay for it. And typically that would always come after the beginning of the fiscal year, so we know how much money there is to deal with. The employees would be made aware of that up front. And the other thing, and this probably won't be super popular, but, you know, I also have to be a manager as well. But if they don't, the other thing that I would put into it would be is if they didn't use it by the end of the year, my fault, your fault, anybody's fault, they lose it. So there's the motivation to not let it go unchecked. And, but I think the idea is one that would be well received by our personnel, and it would be something good for morale.
So that's your downstream marker is the end of the fiscal year?
Yes, sir. Well, the calendar year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we would put the time into the bank at the beginning of the calendar year,
I see.
January
Okay.
1st.
Thank you.
But with respect to any payout, and what I suspect that folks would be looking for is to maybe have 40 hours-ish to get paid out or sold back to the county. So historically, they use it for Christmas presents and something in the holiday season. But bearing in mind that we already pay for it anyway, there's the opportunity to probably save some money as well.
So I don't really see a problem with the 80 hours. The thing I'm concerned with is the fact, the upfront issue, because once you've used the hours and the holidays haven't happened yet, that can cause a problem if they leave employment. And so I think there's the details that'll have to be hammered
Well,
out.
that's a good point, Leslie. I think that's a fair question or a fair point, and we would address that again with the finalized version of whatever we're going to do.
So then, should we consider undergoing a quick legal review to ensure consistency across the county?
Well, yeah, I mean, we just direct HR to continue to work with legal and present us with an option.
We appreciate you allowing us the option to talk about it. At least we got our foot in the door. We'll see where it goes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So I don't know that we need a motion here, right? We're just providing direction? Okay, you okay, Sylvia?
And same with number 7. I mean, that's,
Same for number 7?
unless you need to talk about it. Oh, JP?
JP, go right ahead, sir.
I don't want to rock the boat, but will other departments have the opportunity to give input? If this is going to be sweeping for all departments, I may have a different opinion.
Absolutely.
And I'd like an opportunity to write that down if it's seriously is going, if this is going to be considered.
Let
Yeah.
Sylvia know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I want to speak to the fact that it is supervisor or department head led. So it's up to the department head whether or not they take advantage of that portion.
Okay. Okay, so we've taken care of items 6 and 7. Okay, item number 8. Request to adopt initial classification results for DC Network Technician HR. Kim, go right ahead.
So District Court had a new position approved for FY '21 that was going to start mid-year, potentially April 1st of 2021. They had put together their job description, and we have finalized the grade on it. So it would come in at a grade 8. You have the edited job description, the scoring comparison, and also the posting that we put up for the public as well. So we're just asking you to adopt that grade so they can go forward with recruiting.
And comparative to the budget, this falls with what was budgeted, Marissa?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so it's pay grade 8. So it was regraded, okay. And any other concerns, any questions?
Nope.
Motion?
I move that we adopt the initial classification results for the DC Network Technician position.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, then. Moving on, whoops. Okay, moving on to item 9. Request to adopt reclassification results for Sheriff's Admin Assistant HR.
So this was an existing position that the sheriff's office edited the job description and changed the reporting flow. And so we've graded it, and it has gone from a grade 7 to a 6. And then also a title change to keep it in line with the other administrative assistants within the county.
So it's been effectively downgraded,
1 grade.
1 grade. Okay.
So can I just ask a question on who does the jobs that this person used to do? So it went from up here to down here, so who is now going to do those jobs that used to be done by the executive? Realigned. Okay. You're gonna have to come to the microphone, Dan.
Yes, please.
Those other duties have been realigned and distributed within the administrative staff.
Okay.
And the sheriff, the new sheriff himself, wherever he went, but he saw it slightly different as it had existed before. So the end result was a reclassification or a review of that job, and then with that came a redistribution of the duties.
Okay, so any of the duties going to the other people, is that gonna trigger reclassification for them?
You know, I would say no at this point, because there was a great deal of overlap, or at least some overlap in those positions to begin with. And again, the way Sheriff Norris had envisioned that position, it just triggered a look at the position and a redistribution of those duties.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
I don't have a
Bill,
problem.
any questions?
None.
Motion?
I move that we approve the request to adopt reclassification results for the administrative assistant position at KCSO.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, final item. Wow. I didn't think we were going to make it. Okay. Okay, so this is in regard to the Director of Resource Management. What I am requesting today is that HR conduct a salary study for the position to evaluate whether it's placed in the appropriate grade for the market. When the position was previously graded a couple of years ago, there was some difficulties in terms of getting it matched correctly. And so what I'm asking for HR to do is to take another look at it, if they would, just to make sure that it is correctly classified, because it is a position that was difficult to grade. And that's what I'm asking the board to allow, if I can get a second.
I'd rather wait until we start the October wage study again, because that's coming up.
I agree.
You want to wait? Okay, so let me just make one other point. When this was conducted a couple of years ago, there were some difficulties with it, so we've gone through this now for 2 years. And the parameters, and there may be no change to the way the position is defined, but if there is, shouldn't we at least take a look at it? Any change in thought?
No.
Doesn't look like I can convince anyone. I'm ashamed of myself. No, actually, I'm not. No, okay, that's fine. Sylvia, did you want to jump in here at all and just explain anything about the process?
I'll just talk about how we do a wage study.
Yeah, please.
We did one in 2019, and we're slated to start one for fiscal year '23 evaluation. And so when we look at that, we ask, it's going to be Ameriban who would do it this time because BDPA sold to them. So we will give them we'll give them our job description and ask them to look for market. We could ask them to specifically look for the RMO director position if they can find a match. And then from there, if we get market data, we'll do our analysis. If we don't, and the process that we handled when we did the 2019 study is, and this was with every position, if we didn't have market data, we looked at jobs that were similar within the county and how they should be placed in there. And we did that consistently with all other positions. So that's the way we would handle that process as well for fiscal year '23 consideration.
You mean 22?
Well, we'll do the work in '22, so then
Oh,
we
I
can
see
do
what
some
you're saying.
projections
Okay,
for
okay.
implementation of any changes, potentially if approved by the board for
So
fiscal year '23.
How have we handled other positions throughout this fiscal year where we felt they might not have been properly graded?
So what we do is if there were significant changes to the job, we would do a job reclassification study, and that's 99% done by HR. Once in a while, we consult with Korn Ferry to do that. And once we get that initial grade, the team looks at it from job classification information that we receive. We look at market data if it's available, and we also look at internal alignment with similar jobs within the county. And we use those 3 factors to say, where should this position be placed? And that's how we do that process.
And have we done that at all this fiscal year for other employees?
Yes.
We have.
And when we say look at market data, we're looking at what we had available within the 2019 study, unless directed specifically to do a
Right.
special study for a position.
So what I'm asking for here is to do nothing any different than we've done in the past. And it may not even result in a change or any increase.
I see it as different because it's not a reclassification. The other ones were reclassification because the job duties had changed. There's no change in this job duty.
Okay. There may not be a change, but the last study that was done actually called for a higher grade than what we assigned.
But doing the comparison to the other jobs, we treated everybody the same.
Bill?
I'm agreeing with Leslie.
Okay. Done. Thank you. All right, then. Anything else? Public comment? Hearing none. 11:46, meeting adjourned.